They would be you would see them in pubs wearing clothes of the day. These are bound manuscripts, definitely did not exist in Jerome's time. Let's see, he was 4th century. So yeah, definitely did not have bound printed manuscripts. But what this does is it makes it real and it makes the religious accessible. And the part of the reading that I have of this is that well, obviously, here's a true memento mori sitting right here. And if you read that this side of the painting, it's dark. This is more of the death side, the afterlife. And here he is. Your death is creeping up on you. You have no idea. He's not even paying attention. He's doing God's work. So he knows that this is coming. He doesn't know when. He's still doing his good work. Almost, he looks like he's about ready he's being drawn towards it, but at any second he could make a note or some such thing. There's all kinds of symbolism with the rest of it, but I wanted to note that also the books show that your work will continue on even after you're gone. And if that's all you want to get out of it, that's fine. You can do even more. This is a Fibonacci sequence, which is deeply mathematical. And those of you that know me are probably shocked to hear the word math come out of my mouth. However, it is a beautiful structure because this is precisely designed and it has a tremendous rhetorical value. If you're interested, I'll be pleased to send you the section that has the reading of it because it shows all this balance and it has these subliminal effects on the audience in which you can just see how, again, it draws your eye, it draws your emotions. You can interpret all these deeper meanings. There's triangles. There's one actually here, which I'll point out they're everywhere. That's a symbol of balance. I also want to point out that the numbers in the Fibonacci sequence are equal to the numbers of objects in here, which, again, I break it down in the actual document. So you're welcome to ask me if you want to see a copy of it. But it did, as desired by the Council of Trent, is the main point that I have here. It assures viewers that in whatever one does, that mortality will always catch up, and that you must be right with God when your end comes soon and unexpectedly, as is the case. And of course, to be right with God, you are right with the Catholic Church. This one is very quick. It's a ceiling, and it's the allegory of divine providence and Barberini power, another one in Rome. These ceilings are enormous. So this is the Barberini family, very powerful, gave a lot of money to the church, so they have this dedication. But way in the corner, right over here, tucked away, look who's there. Gentleman with the scythe and the wings. There is a connection to this, where this indicates him clearly as time. If you're familiar with Lubin, and there's actually quite a number of them, time in the Greek mythology devoured his children. Well, we are children of time. Time created us, and we will be devoured through death. So that's something that has existed for a very long time. Look at that, carried forward, and even today we can read this and understand what that means. And that's a reminder that no matter how powerful you are, Barberini family, you will be devoured. All right, so now we go into the literature. This is amazingly fun, but yet at the same time, you can see why I wear eyeglasses. This was a pain. And actually, I have to give credit to my friend Andrea Galbi, Dr. Andrea Galbi, over in Italy, who helped me with this translation. So both of these poems are by Giambattista Marino. And the first one over on the left, thank you to Marolo, who is the author that translated this for me, so I didn't have to read this. But quickly it says, hardly born into this misery-filled life, unhappy man opens his eyes to see tears before he sees the sun, and, born to suffering, is already a prisoner in his tight swaddling clothes. Then a boy who no longer feeds on milk, he leads his days under severe restriction. Later, at a more mature age and serene age, he lives and dies between fortune and love. How much toil and death can he then sustain, sad and mendicant, before bent and weary he leans his tired body on a weak stick. At last a narrow tomb encloses his remains, so quickly indeed that I say with a sigh, from the cradle to the tomb is but a short step. Very interesting, yeah? And the other one, oh, by the way, Gillian Beckett, We Are Born to Stride a Grave. Bam! There's the connection. I knew I could get one in there for you. And then this one talks about a cruelly wrought conspiracy between death and nature. And of course, it talks about a feared rest, which we all know is death, and creation's not painted. I love the very end of this, though, because, I'm sorry, the story behind this is that Marino and Caravaggio, who we looked at earlier, were friends, and unfortunately Caravaggio died early. So Marino wrote the poem, and it says, the poem ends with crediting Caravaggio with preserving the memory of people in his paintings, thus helping them to escape the reaper in a way. How many with the sickle the people are consumed, that many with the pinello you remake. So there's a positive memento mori. You can be, and again this ties to St. Jerome, your works carry good things on. And briefly, here is another from the literature, Cesare Ripa. I love this because, look at this, we went back to the Greek mythology. Remember Saturn or Time, or Kronos, devouring his children. They softened those medieval images and they became much more, again, they went back to the classical age and go, okay, let's go back to where, let's step back and start again. So here's death and here's time. There's not a lot of difference if you look at it. However, you see here there's a scythe for both of them. And then here, there's a little hook that death has, and that one has been lost. That it's lost its mimetic viability. It's very interesting, but it says, death has a scythe, and a hook that alludes to pulling down the fruit from the highest trees, signifying that death indiscriminately levels the greatest monarchs with the meanest subjects. Again, memento mori, see? All right, so, and I'm sorry that was very rushed. Again, if you would like a complete reading of any of these or the whole thing, please contact me. I do appreciate feedback, editing, input, because I do want to expand all of this. And if you know of any other projects that need to be in here, please let me know. Again, there's a lot to be done. So this is just a taste, very quickly, I'm afraid, of what I want to work on. But the thing is that it's very cool because there's a lot of material that I can work with in all of these media in order to find and look at memento mori and how these networks spread through Europe, the Catholic world, outside the Catholic world, how it affected the church during the Reformation, beforehand, afterwards, how it still affects it. And there's many, many ways I can go. So as I said in the beginning, I'm very interested in everything. I have a feeling this is going to be the work of more than my lifetime. So, lest anyone's favorite work be missing from this study, it will be noted that there are an immense number of works in Rome itself, let alone the empire, that be fitting for examination here. They offer models of being a good person or an exemplary Christian, and though the art structures of the Roman Church can be up to a millennium or old more, they still hold their persuasive power upon the mind and heart of the believer, be they a devotee of the faith, the art, or the history. Whether or not the audience believes in the afterlife or not, the message is still clear. Death comes swiftly and definitely. In Rome, do as the Romans do, carpe diem. Be a good Catholic as you do so, and death will hold no fear for you. We're excited if you wish to know, and voila. Merci, mille grazie, gracias. Thank you all for your support. Your turn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. There have been questions from members of the committee. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Have enjoyed your work that you produce very much, and I'm interested. I wonder if you could address for us how you begin with memento mori and you end with carpe diem as you did there. I think it's almost in the last line. But it's interesting because the carpe diem goes both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And so when we look in the face of death, we have this tradition, but then we have a convenient example, somebody like Boccaccio's Decameron and the reaction to the Black Death. And that carpe diem is a very different one, right? So I'm going to die, and so I need to throw myself headlong into hedonistic, this world pleasures.
Yeah.
So I see the metaphysical part of what you do. I want to talk a little bit more about the moral part and what strategies do you see these artists under the guidance of the church using to push it one way rather than the other?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, especially if you're staring the plague down the face, down in the face. Yikes. Let me go back to, yeah, we'll go to the Pope. Yeah, this is one, I would use this and also St. Jerome as an example to address your question. Yeah, if the previous ones in the medieval, again, I'll call you to remember the triumph of death, where it seemed like everybody was in a big party. And then death came mowing them down, and they didn't even know it was coming. And that is a perfect visual allegory or companion to, let's say, the Decameron. Right? So we don't know if it's going to hit, so let's party it up and carpe diem that way. Here, I would say that this is a great example of a visual rhetorical piece that pulls it back. What is a good life? Because of course, if you're being a hedonist, there's all kinds of things that put you on the other side of St. Peter's ledger. So how can we be good people? How can we serve ourselves? And of course, in doing so, and this is, I'm pointing to Loyola with this, and other movements at the time, the Protestants were actually they were discussing ways in which you could make it more internal. So there was that reaction against the medieval, zeitgeist of the Carpe Diem Vegas style versus Carpe Diem. Well, it actually after, in the Renaissance and so forth, there was plague and so forth, but it wasn't so much of a threat. And also, even if that is your concern, be it war, famine, disease, whatever, there's a better way to live, the godly way to live, right? It was a return to the teachings of Christ as they were taught. So more of a passive instead of, the Greek lifestyle. This is more into prudence, justice, truth, and of course, you are surrounded by these virtues and you will end up like him. You don't have to be afraid of death when it comes. So that, I would say, is the visual answer to, let's say, the medieval one that we saw. I'll do a direct comparison here real quick. So again, that would be the carpe diem of what you're speaking of during the medieval. And then this is more softened. Death is not riding everybody over and coming to attack the Pope. The Pope is above it, literally and figuratively. So you're above death, you don't have to worry about it.
So death is actually being covered over by something else.